All right, so this week I have Willy Solis. I think this is his third time back on the show. So Willy, from the Gig Worker Collective, thank you for coming back on.
Thank you for having me back.
Yeah. So I want to talk. I mean, the last two times were just strictly Proact, and today I think that both of our what we're pushing for kind of is aligning right now with DoorDash. So I want to make sure we get into that a little bit as well. But yeah, so I don't know. Since the last time we've met, where do you think, just in a brief, the Proact has gone to, or what do you think's going on with it, or what do you got going on around it?
Right. So legislatively speaking, I think it's at a standstill for right now. There's some senators that are holdout, and that's keeping everything from moving forward. And there's some really toxic political climate around it. But at the end of the day, I think that that it's going to move in our direction, positive direction. At least I hope so. We're getting movement on the ground. We're actually going to be doing a protest here and on Wednesday, the 21st? Yeah, we're on Wednesday, 21st. We're doing a protest at Uber, specifically surrounding around the PRO Act and bringing out the grievances that we have there.
Yeah. Even if this time around it didn't pass, this is the closest anything like this has ever come, for sure. But like you said, I think I kind of agree with you. I think there's some toxic, that was a perfect way to say it. There's some toxic holdouts that could really muddy things up. I don't know. We've talked about this before, and if you go back and listen to the other two prior conversations with Willy and I, we dive more in deep about what's going on with the PRO Act. And since it's kind of at the same point, really, it was before, but yet I had Willy lined up to come back today because I thought by now we might have a little more change, a little more push one way or the other. It just kind of seems like it's in the same place. But a lot of things are being held up right now politically, and it's just what it is right now. It's, we live in a mess society. I don't really know how to say it otherwise. It's everything's a mess. If you pick one thing, you can find the mess about that thing. And that's how I feel anyway.
Right.
But yeah, so I don't know if we've seen a change or not, but I thought it was a good week since you were on to talk about this DoorDash stuff. Because I know last week we did the piece on DoorDash, or, I had Jason on so that I could explain where we're coming from at Para. And, we got a lot of good comments on that. A lot of people listened and really thought that, thank you for putting that out. I know it was a little long for some people, so we'll try and keep it a little short today. And I'm definitely looking to not run over that hour, even with the total podcast. So, but I just wanted to know where we're aligning, because I think that you saw it and you contacted me and said that was a great piece. And so I knew we already, talk about you have to be able to talk to the other sides to be able to feel like progress is being made. But this was us being aligned almost exactly. And I don't think this is something the gig economy expected, was AB5ers, your people that listen to me all getting aligned against something specifically. And I honestly think DoorDash is a perfect example, actually a very unique example too, of how bad what they're doing is.
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, it's about listening to the other side, but also understanding where you are in your advocacy work or whatever it is that you're pushing, because you have to be able to pivot, right, and understand that your way is not always going to be the only way. But I think what really caught my attention, and I've actually been following what Para's been doing and been following some of the things that are going on there. And as soon as it started coming out, what the Para app did, it was clear that DoorDash would probably come after the app itself and try to, minimize or eliminate it altogether. And I think that's where the problem is, right? So we're independent contractors trying to do our job in the best way possible, using whatever tools, means necessary in order to accomplish that and to make ourselves more profitable. That's what entrepreneurship is. And we're supposed to be able to take on whatever tool we feel is necessary in order to do those things. And here you have a gigantic corporation squashing that. which is one of the reasons why we tie everything that we tie into the you're treating us like an employee already mentality or thinking, right? Because at the end of the day, they are controlling us in so many different ways through soft controls and such, and treating us like employees. And they're trying to get us to do what they want us to do through these soft controls, whether it be the rating system or in Para's case, eliminated it altogether. And those things are where I think we all need to draw the line and say this is where the problem is, right? Because they are crossing a clear divide and entering a space where they have no authority or reason to be in.
I mean, good point. I think that in Para's case too, I don't know if when you were listening last week, that the growth measurement that we had over like 11 or 12 weeks, like I said, if you go back like 3 months, we had 800 users on the Para app, and about 100 of those were people we knew who were helping us beta test. So, I mean, really, but then it grew to 29,000. And then last week when we did the podcast, we were at 193. We were like 7,000 under 200,000. You know what I mean? Like sometimes like you really got to like get a perspective by seeing something like that to make a point. And so last week I took my son to the All-Star game here in Denver, since it had been canceled in Atlanta, moved here to Denver. And we went in, and you don't often see Rockies Stadium sold out to the T, pushing every limit. There was 50,000 people in there. And I had to look around and think, we have 4 times this many users using the Para app. It's a pretty wild thing to look at something like that and go, wow, 4 times this stadium right now are using our app. I mean, that growth was incredible. Para has the ability to do it. Para has the responsibility to do it because they know the amounts. And like I said last week, if we were able to get it, folks, Para has it, or DoorDash has it, and DoorDash should be giving it to you. They can't take what pieces they want. Even if people want to say it's cherry picking, it might be. But the problem is that Prop 22 and all that, wherever you stand with Prop 22, their stance was that we remain independent contractors. Well, then they can't use the acceptance rate against us, because if they could, they would just do that and pick off all the cherry pickers in a day. They can't do that. So now we're stuck in this really weird place where, okay, you want us to be independent contractors, but you don't want to follow the laws and provide every piece of data that we are owed to see. And this goes beyond even, or before even getting to using whatever tools we want. You're not even giving us all the data that you have that we should see.
Right, absolutely. Going back to the baseball thing real quick, I'm a huge baseball fan. So you guys got really lucky on that. But aside from that, I just wanted to expand on what you just said. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, that the information is there. These big companies are weaponizing data against us, and they continue to do that in a way that they shouldn't, that crosses lines and barriers that makes us basically employees, regardless of where you stand, if you agree with me or not, right? At the end of the day, there is a line, and that line, it continues to be crossed over and over and over. They wrote Uber when they were first talking about Prop 22 and talking about AB5 and all that at the very, very beginning. Uber tried to do the whole thing. You're an independent contractor. You get to set your own price in California, right? Yep. And they did that. So until they passed Prop 22, the moment Prop 22 passed, they took that away. And that's information that drivers needed to have access to. That's setting the rates is something that the drivers should be able to do. Even if you don't agree with those 2 different features, at the end of the day, the data is the one that they're keeping away from the drivers. And that's where the problem is. We as independent contractors have every right to access every single piece of data that comes through these apps that we utilize to make our decisions. And when they take that away from us, that we lose control. And because we're losing control, that's where I say that they're crossing the line of independence, where you can't formulate an independent thought process by yourself in order to decide if you're going to take an order or not. And when they do that, that is where we all should come together and say, no, and now we're not going to allow this.
I think that the thing the when they changed to the drivers could set their own pricing model, it was like it only ran, like you said, it was pulled as soon as Prop 22 passed. So it only
Mhm.
really happened, if I remember right, it really was only in Southern California. I think other parts of California were trying it, but it wasn't really everywhere. They never really blew it up except for in LA Metro and all that area. But I know that I don't know if their platform could handle everybody going in there and setting all kinds of rates. So I don't know that that was ever an enticing thing. It's just like, why wouldn't you, again, why wouldn't they just have been more transparent about the things that matter instead of trying to go for these tools that could actually bottom out the platform? It's like,
Well, I agree with you on most of that. The only thing that, well, I will point out this: the reason why they specifically chose those cities is because those are the cities that they were getting sued in, and
right,
those were
sure.
the
Oh,
cities
yeah, yeah.
where the cases were in. So that,
And
that they
that's
were trying to prove to the
AB5 land.
courts,
Yeah, that's
right? They were trying to prove to the courts, hey, look, in these specific counties, in these specific areas, they're independent contractors. We're not controlling what they set. But here you have a $1 billion corporation, right? You have several $1 billion corporations that are getting a pass because it could potentially bottom out their platform when they have all the resources and tools necessary in order to expand those. You guys are what, 4 people at Para?
yeah.
And with 4 people, you were able to amass that. And you're telling me that a multi-billion-dollar corporation can't put the software necessary or the resources necessary allocated to a problem like that? I mean, the reality is that they could, and they just don't want to. And they don't want to for a reason, and that's because it gives too much power to independent contractors, which is the gig workers. And if we hold that power, then we decide what we earn, and that they take a back seat, and they're not about to do that. And so that's where I think we need to come together and just say, hey, you know what, this is enough.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the tactics that went around AB5 Prop 22 just seemed obscure to me. Like they were just throwing everything at the fan during that time. But I think we all knew, you knew, I knew that was all going to be pulled away.
Well, I mean, it all depends too. It depends if it worked in that particular instance, right? For the court, and the court said, "Hey, this is giving independence to independent contractors, and they really are independent." Then they would have probably followed that model all along, straight, across the board. And the reason why is because now they have a formula that actually works in court. The reason Prop 22 was even conceived is because they were losing in court,
Right.
right? And because they couldn't win in court, and they didn't want to take it over to the Supreme Court level. They didn't want to take it to the Supreme Court of California's level. And the reason why, because it would set precedents throughout the land. And
Right.
so in order to keep it contained, they decided to switch gears and start Prop 22. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to think about it from the legal challenges and the legal perspective, and what it is that how it's happening there, as well as the practicality of it, and how does that translate to the actual drivers. But I think that at the end of the day, what really works for us is being thrown out the window because it doesn't benefit the companies.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a little concerned on what does benefit the companies, to be honest. Like I honestly, it's not like I think they're good people. I don't think they're good people at the top levels, but they're a company trying to make money like any other company. They just every time they're given a chance, they go the wrong direction every time. And I just don't get it. It's like, you guys try everything for a month. Couldn't you try the right direction for a month? Like,
Right.
just saying, dude, because like you said, with the Supreme Court, we saw that over in the EU, and it did pass, and it is now to be upheld all over. So yeah, they don't want to see it go to the Supreme Court.
Right.
Not at all.
Right. Yeah,
They've
that's
already
that's their
they've
hope.
been
So,
through that. They know what I mean. In fact, they took Prop 22 on the road and kind of went to cities that were going to have the next AB5 type legislation and said, "Hey, this is what we'll do." I mean, they kind of already
yeah.
pre-planned how to proceed with this, and DoorDash too was a part of that. So
Yeah, and I would put it out there to folks like this. At the end of the day, I get it. Some people just cannot get past Prop 22 and maybe five and say, I can't really go down that road. That's fine. But understand that if you ignore the problem and think that the status quo is gonna stay, it's not. And like you just said, Prop 22 ideas and the way that they passed it is moving forward in other cities. We're seeing it in Massachusetts, and we're seeing it in other cities in Chicago, where they're trying to push those kinds of things. They're trying to form these quote unquote independent drivers guilds that that represent drivers. But at the end of the day, they're shills for the companies. And that's where the problem is, right? That there is no transparency from that side of things. And we need to be careful as to how we approach these issues and understand that they want to pass stuff or have the controls that they have in California. This whole PARA thing, that's all a control power grab, right? At the end of the day, that's all it is. And they're basically squashing the app and the benefits that it had for drivers for their benefit, and because it was just too powerful. It became too powerful too quick.
Well, but that's the other thing too. I don't know how much you've been following, but we've, David and I talked many times, especially many times leading up to right before that happened. And we already had so many things on board or queued up that were different from that we're still going to appeal to gig workers, though, especially platform workers who maybe worked strictly in food delivery. We were working on, and I think we've already seen it starting. There's some major overhauls coming with it, but Grubhub and Uber Eats and what it will be able to be done through Para, however people are saying it, because we say it both ways over there. But we've had things in line. I mean, we've had people bothering us for years, or for the whole time we've been running, because it kind of went down when once the amount of people on the platform grew, we lost the earnings tracking. And that was a big thing to people. That was huge. I mean, we were hearing from so many more people than we thought we would, because we thought everybody was just concerned about the tip transparency, but it was shocking to see how many people were like, dude, where is that earnings tracking? Get that back up for me. I think that was really helping them. So we have a lot more tools coming too. I think people wrote us off as, well, they're done. And it's, hey man, like you just said, 4 of us got in there and did something, and we're not done. We're hitting it from a bunch of different angles to a bunch of different places to make sure that people have tools to do their job correctly. Again, I said it last week, I'll say it again, is that like DoorDash has the ability to do this, and we've said this all along. DoorDash, go ahead and do it. Otherwise we will. Yeah.
We challenge you. And that's another thing, like, it's weird that gig workers have to resort to these kinds of things. We at Gig Workers Collective and with MIT in conjunction with them and Coworker as well, coworker.org, we've been working together on several projects in regards to tools and things of that nature. And we're looking at an earnings tracker ourselves that we're going to be putting out at some point, but not to compete or anything like that, just to be a resource and a tool for people.
We need more people to do the same things.
Right, exactly. we reach more people. But the whole point is, why? Why should we have to do that when the apps themselves are supposed to be the ones that are the, go-to and be all of what we do? But at the end of the day, they hide information that you guys stumbled upon that was extremely valuable to gig workers. And we've been, driving blind basically. And now we're when that got taken away, why did it get taken away? That to me is a complete violation of the line of independence for me. And it should be for every gig worker, right? Because at the end of the day, whether you agree with the fact that you should see it or not, okay, I know that there's some people that say that they don't want to see it. I don't know why they wouldn't want to see it, but I've talked to some people that say I don't want to see it because it's not right. Okay, sure, if it's not right. But at the end of the day, like you're saying, DoorDash has the ability to show every single piece of information to us that we need in order for us to make an educated decision onto whether or not we're going to be profitable. They're taking that away from us, and that is not right.
No. And like you said, I mean, I've had people tell me when you said, you didn't know why. I've had people, I mean, I've had a barrage of emails over this for months, but I've had people telling me that it's cheating. I mean, that's been a common thing people say to me. The reason I don't use Para is because it's cheating. And I think, I just don't want to get too far, because some of these people have been doing gig work for years. And so I'm not trying to offend them. However, how is it cheating to get the information that we're supposed to have in the first place?
That's already there in the app. It's just not being
displayed. Right. They have it.
Absolutely.
They have it and should be putting it out. That's not cheating. That's actually, if anybody's cheating, it's DoorDash.
Yeah, I typically try to be open and on not so close-minded on some things, but this particular one is one that's like, that's not cheating. At the end of the day, you got to call it what it is, and that's trying to see the information that they're trying to keep away from us. And we have a right to that information. We deserve to see that information. We cannot be profitable without that information. And it's true. It's 100% true. I've been on these message boards on Facebook and so on and so forth, Reddit and all that. And there's count after account after account of people so upset that they can't really see it anymore, because now they can't really formulate whether or not they're going to be profitable or not. And so they're back down to square zero, trying to take down, every single order that's coming through, $2-3 an order. And you don't know if you're going to get tipped or not. And that's not right. That is not right. We're taking the risk. We're taking we're putting the miles on our car. We're taking the equity out of our vehicles. That is cheating on the part of the companies. They're not paying us and reimbursing us for those costs. $2.50 in Dallas does not cover my maintenance and vehicle expenses for a 5-mile order. It just doesn't.
No.
Because it doesn't cover my time, my expense, or gas, or and my whole vehicle stuff. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I would say that we really need to start having some tough conversations with each other, and figure out what it is that we need to do in order to rock this boat a little bit more. Because right now, I think the tide is changing, especially on DoorDash, where people are talking about striking and everything else, to draw attention to the issue that this company in particular, DoorDash, is crossing the line of independence so greatly that it's angering people that normally would not strike into striking. And we need to take notice of that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to the naysayers too, I do say I go back and reflect on the numbers too. 800 people to 10 weeks later, 200,000 users doesn't mean that every other person didn't believe in it and didn't want to use this app. They just hadn't been turned on to it yet. I mean, our onboarding is still about 1,500 a day without the app.
Right.
We're still bringing them in, and they're like, whatever Para does next, and would be part of it. So they're just.
I 100% agree with that. Yeah, that statement right there is 100% crystal clear, because if there was no need, there would be no growth. Right. And there was a tremendous amount of need, so there was a tremendous amount of growth. And that's why you guys saw the explosive growth that you saw. But it's just a matter of time before other people hear about it. It starts growing. I'll be honest, I heard about it the first time. For the first time I heard about it was with you. You vaguely mentioned that you guys were doing something, but I don't remember you mentioning the name. Yeah. And then like 3 weeks later, that's when I started hearing it in the message boards and so on and so forth. And then I said, okay, I'm gonna try it myself. And I was about to start trying it when all this started happening. But I was already using like the driver utility hub. I was already using that, and using that, I mean, that gave me so much power and information and knowledge over the tools and stuff that I needed, to better understand my earnings. You can't call that cheating, because that's information that I would document myself and put it on a spreadsheet. This program just puts it a lot easier for me. I'm doing the work. I'm doing the hard work of analyzing whether or not I'm being profitable. And if I'm not being profitable, make adjustments accordingly. So, I mean, you guys tapped into something that was absolutely necessary at the absolutely right time. And you guys got shut down for no reason.
Right. And surprisingly enough, I got to say that it was pretty shocking to me that all the time along, people are like, if you tell people about Para, then they'll shut it down. They knew about us, but I'm surprised, I hate to say this because I'm glad that they waited, but I'm surprised they waited so long to shut it down.
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with their legal back and forth and understanding, because it's not as simple as make a decision at one level. I mean, these companies are multi-level.
It was the growth.
Layers. You got to pull back.
It was the growth. Once it was 200,000, they were like, this is a problem.
Right, exactly. So it's like understanding that you guys could be a potential problem, and then the triggers that are necessary in order to do something about it. May take maybe a delayed a week or so, but at the end of the day, you guys were shut down because of your growth. You got too big, too fast. Yep. Too powerful. You guys at Power are just too powerful, and it's amazing to watch. It really is. I applaud you guys for doing what y'all are doing, and I hope that it continues. It sounds like it is. I hope it continues and continues to be a thorn in their side, because like you said, I challenge them myself, right? We should all challenge them to do better, to be more transparent, to be clear. They don't like this, then you do it.
And I think we opened a lot of people's eyes who didn't quite believe that it was quite as ugly as it really is. I mean, I
Right.
know that I know people know I'm not being told the full tip amount because I'm seeing it later. But remember, people, that DoorDash stole from you and got caught. And then, but also remember that they've had this same knowledge that, that was an eye opener to everybody, like, whoa, Para is awesome. At the same time, remember, this is information that we're putting through our app, but we're pulling it from DoorDash. They've had this the whole time. They could have been doing this the
Right.
whole time.
That's where the transparency comes in. Like
Yeah.
there's no reason for them not to display that. That's information we need, and we are, um, in my opinion, entitled to. And I don't like to use the word entitled too much, but that is something that we are entitled to, because at the end of the day, the consumer is putting that tip on there because they want it to go to us and they want us to know about it. They want, I can tell you from a consumer standpoint, when I tip someone, not only do I make sure that they got the tip by telling them how much I gave them, I want to make sure that they confirm that they received the amount that I gave them. Right. And
Right.
that's just because I know what these apps do. And so when I order off these apps myself, that's what I decide to do is I wait for the driver to get to my door and I tell them I tipped you $20. Let's go ahead and process the order, make sure that you are receiving your $20. If you're not, then we're going to have a big problem. And it's not with you, obviously, it's with the company. But
Right.
then I can, as a consumer, right, advocate for that issue. But so the point that I'm trying to make is consumers want us to receive that money. They don't want to hide the tip. They don't want it to like for you not to see it until after you do delivery of the service. They are deciding to pre-tip before the order is delivered for a reason, right? And that's because they want the driver to be valued, to be feel like they're valued. And there's nothing more valuable than understanding how much you are going to earn at the very beginning of an order.
True. True. Yeah, I mean, and that's, and that we always talk market to market, and that becomes a big issue in market to market too, because people have to be able to gauge so many things, like, where do you live? Is it a college town? Is it a huge city? Is it rural? Do you know the times to work? Do you know what restaurants get crowded? Do you know you learn your city, but at the same time, if you have the full transparency, you really can know if that's a worthwhile trip. Whatever car you drive,
Right.
whatever mileage it gets, whatever work you might know is upcoming on your car, the kind of things like that each case individually has to weigh in. And so,
Yep.
each case individually, therefore, needs the full transparency to be able to say, is this worth it to me?
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. At the end of the day, like I work in Denton, Texas, which is a college slash suburb of Dallas. And when I work the college area, my tips are almost none.
Right.
But I know that going in. But when I do see a tip from there, I'm more likely to take that order. If I'm
Mhm.
in that area, then I'm more likely to take that order because it has a tip, and I know that I'm going to be able to make some money on that order. But when you get into like the other parts of Denton, where it's more residential homes, then if I'm having to drive 15, 20 miles because our spaces here, I don't know how they are where you live, but we have to drive 15, 20 minutes to get anywhere. And so if I'm taking that amount of time to deliver one order, I know that I better make enough to make in a 2 hour, two orders an hour to make it worth my while,
Right.
because I'll only fulfill realistically between 2 or 3 orders. So I have to take all those calculations into effect. Where like if you were working in a downtown area, then you can do four to six orders in an hour.
Right.
Where I'm at, that's impossible. You can't do that. Even if you
Mhm.
realistically wanted to, you can't. Um, and so I think that all plays into it. And at the end of the day, it's about transparency and us being able to see that information up front, so I can make an educated decision, and I don't have to hope and pray that I get tipped at the end. Because when I don't get tipped, that's when we become upset, not necessarily at the companies, but at the consumer, because we feel like we got cheated at that point. Like we did all this service, we went above and beyond, because most of us do want to go above and beyond, and we ended up in a situation where we didn't tip, and that's not fun for anyone.
No. And, again, this isn't an AB5 discussion where it's, how do you feel about this? Would you rather be making this amount at least every hour? And this is about a company that literally has all the information to provide. And transparency is something that David and I have hit on hard, regardless of what you believe. And it kind of makes me wonder, how many forces will align to come at DoorDash now? Because there's a lot of us who don't always see eye to eye. However, on this one, how can you not? You already experienced what true transparency is through Para.
Yeah.
So you
This
now know,
one,
now you've had a taste. You know what you're missing now.
this one strikes a nerve and really pissed me off. And I think I conveyed that to you when I wrote you. I was like, man, this one, I really hope that you guys continue to expand on this as much as possible, right? And hopefully go get back around it, because you're right. Now that people have seen what we are able to, the information that we are able to get or should be getting, now it becomes a necessity instead of a want, right? We don't want this, we need this. And the reason we need it is because that's how we subsidize our pay. I mean, plain and simple, that is how we subsidize our pay. The base pay is not enough.
Not even close.
So
especially when we know there's a tip behind it.
Right, exactly.
You just don't know what it is.
Why hide it? So if drivers are so important to your business, why treat them in a way that basically blinds them? That's not the appropriate way to do things.
No, not at all. And I mean, we at Para, we all feel the same. We're going to do everything we can. I mean, people, we had people yelling at us when it went off, like what the heck happened with this? And, I think last week, Jason did a good job of talking about that. He's like, don't you just love people who hate it when something free goes away that was making them a bunch of money and they yell at you? And I was like, no, I don't. I hate it actually, because he knew it was happening to me. And I was like, this really sucks. Like, why would people yell at me about this?
It's kind of ironic, because like I'm seeing the same thing with the strike thing that they're talking about. I'm looking at these message boards and Reddit and so on and so forth, and I keep reading things like these things will never work. But in the same sentence or the very next paragraph, the same person says, but on the date of the strike, I'm going to be getting all these orders, so I'm going to be working. It's like, why would you say that? If you think that it's not working or not going to work, what makes you think there are going to be more orders? The reality is that things do work, right? And when you start getting into a groove and you start getting transparency, or you start working together, you start collectively moving forward, that's when we start showing how powerful we are as a group, right? And not individuals. And I think that the more that we continue to do that, and like you're saying, what forces are going to align, I think a lot of forces are going to align on this one.
Yeah, I do too.
There's just too much behind this particular issue. There's just way too much that we cannot ignore it.
And 200,000 people had a taste of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's something we've never seen really before. I know Maestro had their things and whatnot, but we've never really seen a full transparency of, whoa, unicorn tips, $80 to go get this one order. Like things like that are just like, wow. Like and I think that a lot of people had heard some of the things that you and I talk about on a daily basis, but they really were like, whatever, I need to work. I don't have time for this right now. But I think this was an eye opener, because when Para, they had it, they were like, whoa. And then it went away and they're like, wait, what? And I think that it should have been the whole time. We should have been saying, okay, maybe we did approach it wrong. Maybe we should have been saying, after you download Para, call DoorDash and tell them you want that in their app.
Right. Right. And for the naysayers, I will say this, and not because I try to look at it from the other side. I totally get where people are coming from. I really do.
I do too.
But I want to be clear that this is how these companies want to treat us. This is a type of control that they want over us. That when we find something that's working for us, they will shut it down, take it away from us, and basically leave us in the blind. They want to control everything that we do from point A to point B, including that when we log on to the apps. You may not think that they do, but they do. They soft control, and they try to mind manipulate you by sending you these little messages that, hey, it's busy right now. And here recently, I've gotten a couple of reports of I've gotten several, not just a couple, reports of DoorDash sending out these messages saying, hey, we have too many dashers on the road at the scheduled time that you picked it in front, ahead of schedule. So you might want to reschedule for another time. I mean, how is that independent? How is that flexibility? Right. So we have to look at the reality of the situation. And if we continue to allow this, collectively continue to allow this, it's going to get worse. It's going to get much, much worse.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, I think that people's whistles were wet, and hopefully on this one, something does come together and something does happen to DoorDash. I mean, we're going public with a piece, and I think that hopefully between David and I, we know enough people in the out there in the news world too. They'll take the story. I think we know a decent amount. Um, like I had talked to some people along the way that were like, "Oh yeah, I'm really busy right now, but I've been aware of para or something." And I think it was almost like you, like they weren't really understanding how far it had gone. But now we're ready to kind of put something out there to the media and let them bite on it, because I think there's a story there that they should all be running.
Oh, there's definitely a story. And that's where organizations like us come into play too. We're available. Reach out, man. I mean, at the end of the day, we've established relationships. We'd
Yeah.
love to help push something forward on something like this, because at the end of the day, that's what it's about, right? It's not necessarily 100% our viewpoint all the time, and that's okay. At the end of the day, we're going in the same direction, and that's
Yeah.
what's absolutely necessary, is for us to continue to move this conversation forward, not backwards. And so we're here and available. Reach out offline, obviously, and we can discuss what it is that we can do to help. But at the end of the day, man, I'm all for it. You guys, I heard last time you said you were going to do something like publish something, and I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to seeing it myself.
Yeah, I mean, David made a great start on it. I'm kind of just playing Google Docs catch up right now on his start, but he's already got quite a few bullet points. I got some things I'm going to add, but when it's done, we'll send it off your way too. Maybe even
Yeah,
before we kind of go full public with it, maybe see if you have an angle too, because we want to get it out to as many things as we want everybody to run the story on the same day
right, right.
that's willing
Well,
to. And I think there's a lot of people out there who are. They'd be missing out to not run this story.
it's a big story. It
Yeah,
really
it
is.
is. I mean, it's a lot bigger than the ones you see every day.
Right. We've been a part of a lot of stories regarding DoorDash, Instacart shipped,
Yep.
and I can tell you that this one is transformational, because it's very clear that it's a violation of independence, right? That the
Mhm.
flexibility angle that they claim that they have on it have is being taken away from us in such a way that is, inappropriate, and that's the easiest way or the nicest way that I can put it. But at the end of the day, it's something we collectively have to do, because you guys by yourselves, or just one group by itself, is not going
Yeah.
to make a dent in a company like DoorDash. We collectively have to come together, and that's what we represent, is that collectiveness.
Mhm.
So we're here for you. Just let me know.
Yeah. Okay. Um, well, I know you got a plane to catch today too, right?
Yeah, headed off to San Francisco to go. We're going to protest at Uber headquarters on Wednesday. So
Okay.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm actually giving a speech there, and so we're talking. We are going to be discussing the PRO Act and everything that's revolves around that. But I get to meet other people and have this conversation in person, not only about Uber, but also DoorDash and everything else that's going on in the gig economy, because these companies are trying to do the same thing. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, no, whichever way you want to slice or dice this, it's the same model that they're going after, which is full control of the workforce that they should have no control over.
Is there a link, or is it on your website, or is there something informational about what time the gathering is going? And
Yeah, there is. It's Rideshare Drivers United that's putting it together, and I'll send you the link to their website,
okay,
so that you
I'll put
can
it in the
you can have that
notes.
for your audience.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I appreciate that for sure. And it's going to be an in-person event. I think there's a caravan involved. I'm not sure, but all the details are on their website.
All right. Well, Willie, thanks for coming by again, and I will get you that as soon as we have it done, because we're pretty. We feel bad it went down, but we feel like we did a huge hit on DoorDash, and to
Oh, you
like
did tremendous.
and to, yeah, I mean it was a great hit job too. I love it, but to be honest, it's now we don't want to let it die down at all. It would
Right.
be the worst thing to do right now would be to take the foot off the gas.
100%, you're absolutely correct. Yeah, and I can tell you from having witnessed several different things, not necessarily exactly like this, but similar to this movement, where you have a collective moving forward, right? And you hit this wall. If you don't continue to go forward, you will lose the power that you guys have gained. And I can tell you, you hold a tremendous amount of power, more than you probably realize. It's just a matter of how you wield it and use it and utilize it to move the conversation forward. And the conversation needs to be moved forward, man. It absolutely does. So you guys don't give up. Don't don't
No, that's, you know, and that's not our style. And that's what we
don't
tell
let your foot off
people
the gas.
is that we're always, I mean, David and I had 100 ideas before we tripped into tip transparency. We were doing so
Good.
many other things like getting people's data like the UK does and getting it to them, you know, like
Right.
all the data that you're owed, basically. I mean, things that they have on you that you should have a copy of. And I mean, we started off doing all these other things, and it's just, we kind of tripped into that one while we were doing 10 projects. And Jeff found it
Yeah.
in, and he was like, "Hey, wait, look at this." It was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I heard that, and I was really intrigued by that. I'm sure he saw it in the source code and was like, "Whoa, hey,
Yeah,
here's
so,
a gem, jackpot."
yeah.
But one thing I will challenge you guys on though, and I'll do it publicly here is please don't get too far behind on, and I know that you guys aren't, because I heard that you guys weren't charging for para, and you guys weren't monetizing it too tremendously. Y'all should have. I think that y'all
I
should have at
know.
some
Well,
point.
we were coming to it. Now we're on a pause with that again, but
Right. But I would challenge y'all as y'all move forward with information and data, as y'all start providing those things, if that's the direction y'all go, please be careful how that's monetized, because
oh,
the
of
data is very
course.
sensitive. And I know some of these other companies, I won't mention any other names, but I know some of these other companies are selling user data. Like gig workers are working their butts off and think that they're getting all this information for them to use, but the data is being sold on the back end behind them and used in other ways. And actually, some of it's being sold back to the companies themselves. So
I
I
know
would
some
challenge you
people.
guys to stay away from that.
Yeah, and I know some people question. Some people have brought it to me, and they send me a copy of our privacy policy, and they're like, "You're
Mhm.
entitled to my social, to this, to this, to." I hate, again, we're a 4-man team. We used a very boilerplate thing.
Right,
If you've downloaded Perry, we ask for next to nothing.
right.
We really don't want any
And
information from you. I mean, we don't want to
yeah,
have it.
from a business standpoint, because I've run businesses myself, I get why you guys would have used a boilerplate user agreement kind of
Just to
thing.
be careful. That
Just
was
to be
really what it
to be careful of
was.
the legalities and all that. Yeah. But I would challenge, like, moving forward, I'm not talking about the legalities, right? Because you got to the legalese. I'm talking about the fundamental people behind the scenes that are actually working these things and making these decisions. I would seriously challenge you guys to be careful of how you monetize it. Definitely monetize it, but monetize it
Oh
in a way
yeah.
that doesn't compromise people's data.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? For all you know, we might ask you in on that conversation and other people to
Oh,
say,
I
"Hey,
would
listen,
appreciate it.
here's what we're thinking of," and see if anybody's got an objection. Because the last thing we want to do is hurt the gig worker. That is the
Right.
last thing we want to do.
And I get that general feeling and from you guys, and that's why I bring it up in this conversation, because I've talked to several developers that are working through that process, and we've had these conversations, and at the end of the day, we go our separate ways because the monetization was one way. But yeah, no, I'd love to be a part of that conversation. Don't think that, like, at the end of the day, I'm that hard nosed where I would say it's this way or no way, because that's not
Well,
really the
but
reality.
we would want people who understand to pick it apart. If there is a picking apart to be had, like people might view this as this, or because sometimes when you're again a 4-man team, you put something
Right.
together. It's not. It's like if we launch it, people might go, "You did this all wrong." But if we have some like peers in there that talk to us first, and we have a conversation, say, "What do you think of this?" We might get
Would
some good
appreciate the
feedback
invite.
that might be like, "Hey, pause on this," or "Don't do this," or where we're not even seeing it as a negative.
Right.
We
Right. Yeah.
really
Yeah.
meant nothing negative by it. Nothing. It's just somebody else might see it and go, "Hey, this might not be good."
And I think that's where you have growth. Like, at the end of the day, not only for the actual app or whatever it is that you're working on, but inner growth, right? As a corporation, company, collective, whatever it is that you're doing. At the end of the day, that's how you're able to excel, is that you're able to listen to critiques and you're able to accept those critiques and make adjustments accordingly, right? And that's where I think that um, I get the feel that you guys are at, but a company like DoorDash is not, right? You guys are
So,
criticizing them basically, and what are they doing? Shutting you out completely, right? And that's not
well,
appropriate. So I appreciate it. I hope that you invite me to that conversation. I would love to be a part of it. Give you
yeah.
whatever input I can give, and hopefully it makes a difference.
Yeah, I want people from all angles of life in on that one. So, that have any say in this, even if like you're against us on a lot of things. Yeah, we might want you in there. Not you, but other people too. I'm just saying,
No, yeah,
this
yeah, I
might
get it.
like go ahead, pick us apart. Kind of like
Yeah,
here it is, pick it apart. Go ahead. And
and I applaud you for that attitude.
you guys might pick it apart, but that would be a win for everybody because we would redo it.
Right. And I applaud you for being open to that, conversation, because it's when we close ourselves off that we stop learning and growing. And so I appreciate people that can do that kind of thing. And I've come to know you to be one of those type of people, and I appreciate you for it, man. I really do.
Yeah. Well, thanks for everything you're doing too. Other than the Wednesday and the link, and I'll put it in the notes. Is there anything going on that you want to hit on or?
No, that's all I have for right now. I mean, we
Okay.
just finished up another round with Human Rights Watch. We did another go last week in Houston and Dallas, and that went tremendously well. The Human Rights Watch thing is going really, really well. They should have a report out in, I think they were saying October, November. That's related to all the work that we've been doing. We put a lot of work into that, man. Like
Yeah.
I traveled quite a bit to do that and put a lot of organizational stuff behind it. But we're doing some exciting things, and I hope people follow us and root us on. If they don't believe in everything we do, that's cool. At the end of the day, you see what we're doing, and then I invite y'all to reach out too. Let us know what we're doing wrong, right? At the end of the day, and let me know what I'm doing wrong and what you think that I should be doing. Because, like I said, it just doesn't go one way. I want to grow too, and if there's something that we can do to better benefit the workers, we'd love to hear it.
Sounds good. So I'll put the note in the notes here. There should be everything on this Uber protest on Wednesday in San Francisco, on the Gig Worker Collective website link, and then either Willy's email or his handle on Twitter or something like that, whatever he wants to do. And I'll put them all in the linear notes so that you guys can check it out and get in touch with him.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. I really do. And I applaud everything that you guys are doing. And I hope you continue to stick at the DoorDash.
Yeah, man, we're gonna and I'm sure you'll hear more. I'll text you as soon as we have something more that we know about that's happening.
Sounds good.
All right, take care, Willy. Safe travels.
All righty. Bye.
Bye.